Dear beautiful souls, today I would like to do a little investigation with you. Right now, many human beings are focused on external events. They're focused on conditions. And there's a certain hope attached to the idea that if a certain belief system wins over another belief system, that your conditions will change. But is the drama of it all really what we need to focus on? In any age, in any cycle of history, human beings have looked forward towards the future. Not often for the right reasons. Looking forward is a way of avoiding the present moment, is a way of resisting your own experience and saying, my own experience right now is not correct. There needs to be a better experience somewhere out there, and this better experience is in something that is not really graspable, that is quite abstract, in the idea of future, and there I place the concept of hope. Well, what is hope? Hope for the majority of people is not born out of faith, but it's a psychological coping mechanism of saying, I don't want to deal with this life, therefore I need hope. So I live in a fictional, imaginary life that I feel is superior to my current experience. In the same way, these type of hopes get attached to leaders, parties, religions, and so on, where the sovereignty that lives within you, the true divine sovereignty, your origin of existence, is being delegated to others. So instead of you assuming the role of the creator in your existence, the act of creation is delegated to some sort of authority figure. So it is externalized, it is projected outwards. In thousands of years of human history, people have always looked forward to change and dreaded it at the same time. Because they, of course, want a particular change, and if they don't get that particular change, they choose to be upset and frustrated about it. Somebody a while back asked me about the new age. Well, what is the new age going to bring? And a lot of people are now attaching their hopes to the idea of the new age, of the Aquarian age, the new cycle. But it's not a cycle of effortlessness. It's not a cycle of I can lean back and deny my responsibilities and then everything is going to be hunky-dory. This is not what this cycle is about. The coming age leads to an acceleration of energy. That means you simply get your karma faster. And the mirror through the physical experience is just more immediate instead of delayed. Well, in a way, of course, it serves you, because usually when the manifestation is delayed, the ego can deny responsibility and say, well, I don't know how this is connected, why this is happening to me. And because I don't know, I must be a victim to it. But now, through the accelerated energies, through the acceleration of the experience of time, events happen faster and they mirror our consciousness in quicker and quicker succession. That means you can become aware through the mirror of physical experience quicker. So if you take responsibility, you can use it for transmuting all the negative karmas rather quickly, but it's a rough ride, and it's a ride that you need to be ready for. So it is not this simple idea, now we end up in the Garden of Eden, we give up our responsibilities and the universe will take care of it. No, the universe is giving you the energy to address your experience, but you must choose the timeline, the reality that you're going to experience in the future. Now, if you deny the present moment, and if you refuse to transform, this is not going to be a pleasant one, no matter what you believe. So it is important to understand that ages come and go. Yeah, there are darker ages that have been described in many astrological systems, some of them forgotten by history. Yeah. The Hindus understand it in terms of different yugas, different cycles of soul evolution and soul reincarnation, where the potentials and the opportunities are different based on the energy in that cycle, how it represents itself, what information becomes accessible to the human being. And there are clearly cycles where humans experience themselves further away from God, where they have less access to the Holy Spirit or to the divine mind, and there are clearly cycles where we have more access, and access is much more easily gained. And yet still we cannot escape responsibility. So to those who believe there will be a new age and there will be a renaissance of spirit that doesn't require any effort, they will have a rude awakening. In fact, the higher energies will disturb them because their darkness and their shadow will come up, and if they don't own up to it, they will go into a dark timeline. If they're projected outwards and believe that they're victims, they will not have a pleasant experience. So the idea of ages comes and goes. We had great times in humanity where we had peak civilizations, like the Atlantean civilization, the civilization of Mu, the Egyptian civilization at its peak. Yeah, much of it erased from the modern history books. But all these civilizations rose and fell when it was time for them to fall, because humans couldn't evolve through them any further. There was a dead end that needed to be overcome through the fall of the civilization, so there was a reset in some way. Now, if you place hope on outer conditions, you will be utterly disappointed, because the experience of impermanence is such that there will be peaks and there will be lows, and there will be peaks again and there will be lows again. So from the subjective psychology, there's an experience of instability. And this is what Yeshua meant when he said, don't build your house on sand. Simply means don't build your spiritual identity on something that is unreal. What is never changing in the way that physical reality changes is spirit. But if my identity is placed in this physical vessel, in this local psychological construct, then all my thoughts and worries, they will center around this sense of individuality and its survival, and therefore I must control the conditions outside of me to ensure the survival of this vehicle. And this is the state of ignorance that the Buddha spoke about very, very clearly. It's the identification with the lower state of existence, and to make this the origin of your actions. In this way, you become a reaction machine, where you constantly have to react to life, and the stress levels go through the roof. Because there's a belief, if outside conditions are like this, I'm in danger. I need to control outside conditions to be like this, then I am safe. And that is the duality of existence, where you constantly are, let's say, like a pendulum, you go back between pleasure and fear, pleasure and fear, pleasure and fear. Right? When you have pleasure, you fear not having pleasure. When you have fear, you seek the pleasure in order to not feel the fear. So it's a constant state of dread, constant state of anxiety. But what would happen if I would go beyond local conditions through my meditations? What if I would find not a place, but the ground luminosity or the ground reality of what we truly are, and I would touch that? It's a little bit like this. Imagine if you take an ocean. An ocean can have storms that create turbulences on the surface, but deep down the ocean is tremendously still. But if your identity is placed on the surface, you experience a lot of anxiety and anguish. But what happens if that identity is truly placed in the depths of the ocean at the stillest point? You would barely recognize the turbulences on the surface. You might still be aware of them, but they will not disturb your depth. So the idea of placing hope externally on some sort of event that is impermanent by nature, where one party wins, another one loses, another empire wins, a religion wins, another religion loses. This is actually the path to suffering, to constantly attach to outcomes in this way. When in truth you can build an inner spiritual architecture that represents the depth of the ocean, that is beyond the external change. And this is building your house on rock. Because external circumstances change, but the divine does not. The divine is consistent. The divine is not impacted by the external experience. So if we place identity there, but not through some intellectual concept or thought construct, but through meditation going beyond the thought constructs and touch that ground luminosity, touch beingness, or in German the philosopher would say Sein. If we touch that to such a degree that it temporarily extinguishes our, let's say, current identity or the subjective human experience, then we know that the human psychological construct is a dream. Because when it disappears in meditation, you are still there despite the human construct being gone. So then you will touch something that always is, always will be, and was never affected by the streams of time. So if you place your identity in time, you must suffer. If you go beyond time, your suffering will greatly reduce. Even though the, let's say, current experience of election is very, very important for the collective consciousness, there is a path of light and there is a demonic path. That is very, very true. And yet, even though you make your choices in this world to manifest either this or either that, it is important to go beyond the world altogether. Because this is where true peace lies. Contemplate about this, my friends. Thank you for listening. Be well.